Hello and welcome to the Soholiff Spotlights. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today with Joseph Pearce, who is from the film Scale, which is an absolutely incredible film. We love it. Thank you so much for coming down today.
Thanks for having me.
You're really, really welcome. It's our pleasure. Just for people who are watching here, could you give us just a little tease of what Scale is?
Yeah, so Scale is a 15-minute animation, which is based on a short story by the author Will Self, and it's the tale of a morphine-addicted writer who loses his sense of scale, and it's about his journey to work out how he got into this predicament.
Oh, and it's very beautifully done as well.
Thanks.
I mean, how difficult was it to adapt the story?
There was quite a lot of challenges. I was always very drawn to the story. In fact, I read it when I was like a teenager, like 18, 19, and it really stuck with me because there's this image of a guy whose arms become like the motorway system of the UK, and I just always thought this was a really striking image, and it wasn't really until I got into animation that I kind of realised that it kind of fitted my particular style of animation. So there's lots of strong imagery in it, but for anyone who's read any Will Self, he's a very sort of literary writer. You need a kind of thesaurus to like read his books or a dictionary, just to work out what he's saying. So we kind of had to work out how to turn what he was saying, with a written word into something visual. Like in the book, there's lots of play on the word scale. Like you have bathroom scales, you have scales on a lizard's back, you have lime scale that you get in a kettle. So that sort of play on words didn't necessarily work visually, but we worked out a way that we can, play with perspective and proportions in a sort of more kind of sort of visual language. So these were the kind of sort of challenges we faced, but it was a lot of fun doing it because it was very like rich material to use.
And it is so visual. I mean, it's like you just get drawn into it. It totally takes you on this journey. I mean, when you said it was 15 minutes, I was like, really? Was it 15 minutes? So it's like
quite a long short.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like it when you're watching it. And so, how did you do the animation? Did you have a team? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try and keep it concise because it was quite a lengthy process. But, I've made a fair few shorts before using the same technique, which is a form of rotoscoped animation where you shoot the actors, then you draw over every frame. And this is something I used to do myself, and I would draw over every single frame, either using a digital tablet or sometimes on paper, but because now I've kind of done that and I'm a bit older and I've got kids and I'm busy, I couldn't really do it myself every single frame. So we were lucky enough to have a budget this time where we could employ other people to do it. So what I ended up doing was doing what's called the sort of keyframes. So I did probably 800 or 900 drawings throughout the film and then handed it over to the animators and they did the in-betweens. And luckily I had very skilled animators, mostly in France, who kind of led on the animation, and they just sort of ran with it and kind of ended up doing it in a better way than I probably would have done. So it was really gratifying to get these shots back that were animated by other people but kind of in my style, and it was a real kind of pleasure, that process. Yeah.
And of course the colour palette with it as well, it really sets the tone. How did you come to that?
I mean, that was a really new thing for me. I'd worked very much in mostly black and white or very spot colour, so I was a little bit nervous about doing like full-on colour, but my producer convinced me that we should do this. I was like, it's going to cost more. I spent a long time working with a sort of art director to find the right tones for it, and there's a lot of digital painting in the background. So, very skilled painters who could paint digitally but make it look kind of handmade and still have a sort of painterly quality. So the backgrounds was a real sort of revelation for me. And some are 3D, and we use lots of tracking, lots of complicated kind of techniques, but it kind of molds into one just because it all has this kind of hand-drawn style to it. So, and it was actually coloured in the Czech Republic because we had some funding there, so we sort of shipped it out there, and they all did the colouring and the shadow for it, and did a great job on that as well. So real kind of team effort, really.
Yeah, you can't make a film by yourself, can you?
I mean, you can try.
And I mean, the story is really interesting. I mean, it's like creativity and dependency really kind of go hand in hand, don't they? In a lot of, not always, luckily, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that's what Will Self was hinting at?
I think probably there's a few recurring themes in some of his works, and he does deal with the creative process. And also something that I've been obsessed about is this sort of idea of leaving something behind. So he, in Scale, the character has this vision of this future where his book is being used as a sort of almost Bible to like negotiate the landscape, and there's this kind of strange sequence, and that is a recurring theme for Will Self in a few of his other stories. And I have this, that's how I feel about film. It's like something I can leave behind once I've passed. It's kind of, I like the sort of almost immortal quality of film, that once you put it down, it's kind of there forever, and I like that. But of course the film deals with these themes of addiction and the sort of relation between creativity and addiction, which I think is something which is sort of timeless as well, and you see that with a lot of writers, musicians, creative people. And I wanted to be kind of honest about it as well, and not glorify it, because obviously it's very destructive, and he has this kind of pull between his family that he's lost and his obsession over his writing and over his addiction. So I kind of wanted to create that kind of tension. Yeah.
And I mean, it's, here, one of the things that we're very big about is film where it can, tell really important stories and open up conversations. And I mean, when you made Scale, were you thinking this is something that can open up a conversation? Because obviously it's dealing with quite important stuff that...
Yeah, I think more towards the end of the process is something that the sort of themes of addiction and mental health kind of became stronger to me. I think I was into like the obsession, because it almost became like a life imitating art, the sort of process of the film, because I was becoming so obsessed with making this film. I felt like the character in the film who was obsessed with writing this book, and I even cast my children in it to give it this extra dimension. Well, also to get around child labour laws,
It's much easier with kids,
Tell them what to do. So, because they had this family unit that sort of reflected mine, it really was a bit kind of eerie and kind of to do it this way. But I think this kind of... the obsessive nature of the creative process sort of drew me to it. But I think these themes of, like I said, mental health and addiction is something that became very important as well. And I think some audiences have kind of latched onto that as well, which is really refreshing.
And how important are film festivals to your film? Yeah,
it's an interesting question, because I mean, I feel the landscape's changed a little bit in a way from I'd been on the circuit quite a lot kind of 10 years ago, and then sort of life happened, and children and getting a job and, being a bit more serious, and so then I had a lot of fun, went to a lot of festivals. Here I'm being a little bit more measured. But, it is the way people are experiencing the film. It's not online yet. It's not going to be online until it's had that period, because I want people to see it in cinemas. The sound and the music is really important in this film, and I want people to be able to experience that. So I think, I think they are important for these reasons. And I think the short film scene hasn't abated at all. It hasn't slowed down. I think, if anything, there's more films, and it's great to see all the other, especially for me, the other animations on the kind of scene, and they're just really high quality, very exciting films, and it's great to be kind of back in that world again,
And why the Soholiff?
I think we were just really keen on having the film screening in London, and at a profiled festival that it was shot in North London. I live in London. It's very much the main actor is of London born and bred, so we kind of it was important to us that it was screened here, and it's, you know, because this is the heart of the film industry really in Soho, we just thought this was such a appropriate, you know, great festival for it to really have its UK premiere at, actually.
It's the
so
UK premiere.
It is, yeah. So that's a kind of I have to check that's right. But yeah, it is. It really is. So I think that's really exciting for us, because I think animation does very well in, or my films have had really strong reactions in places like France, and even far-flung places like Japan, and different places that have this very strong animation history, and we have that here as well. I think it's sometimes geared a little bit towards children's animation a bit, so it's, you know, with Aardman and the sort of studios there, so it's great to kind of put a sort of mature adult sort of animation on the map and have it here, you know. So
well, we are absolutely over the moon that you've got it here, because all of us, when we watched it, we were like, oh, wow.
That's great.
It just takes you in. It's so beautifully done, and it's a brilliant story. It's completely engaging.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so thank you.
No, thanks so much for having me.
Much.
And good luck with the festival.
Yes. So everybody, make sure you watch Scale. It's absolutely fabulous, and it's the UK premiere, which is very, very exciting. So thank you, and watch Scale.